This week, probably one of the biggest disappointments ever is the Leapmotor C10. This is the top of the line version. It's $54,000 drive away for those that have an ABN. A little bit more expensive if you don't. That says to me that Stellantis and the 50% owner Chinese company are aiming this at fleets. It is no great raving beauty, but nor is it ugly. I'm going to go through the outside first, then the inside, then we'll go for a drive, and I'll tell you exactly why this is the most annoying car I've ever driven. For a start, the outside. If you don't have the phone app, this is the only way to get in and out of the car. And you've got to tap it not on the door, not on the pillar, where every other car that has this sort of system does, but here. On the mirror, something that could be broken off in an accident. Absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And unless you have the phone app, the lock button on the door doesn't work. I've put it on now and it does work, but none of that works without the app because this is an NFC, and the NF stands for near field. In other words, can't send messages long distances, so the car doesn't know I'm here unless my phone is Bluetooth to it. Then we get to the back. There's a full glass sunroof with an electric shade, thankfully. I'll show you that inside. And you access the back with the button, but as you can see, it's locked. So I'd have to go in, slip around to the front, because for some reason it hasn't recognized my phone. Now that'll work. What a palaver. Then we get to the inside. Like many other Stellantis cars, there's thoughtful designs throughout. There's bag hooks either side and a light, and under the floor a space for the inflation kit and the cables. Speaking of cables, the 66 kilowatt hour battery charges at a max DC of 84 kilowatts, so not terribly fast, but I'm not going to hold that against it. You know, it's about average. You could still do a long trip on this car, it'd just take a little bit longer. But I want to show you the inside, where I think this is a triumph. It is really super comfy. The only thing is, I do not like caramel. It's like sitting in a massive Werther's Original. Brown on brown with just a touch of brown, and it looks orange to make matters even worse. And they call this silicon leather. Well, I'm sorry, there's only one kind of leather, and that's from a cow. Otherwise, it is plastic. Now we're going to get to the really frustrating bit. I've gotten in, clearly my phone is here, but I'm going to put that down for a minute and I'll show you why. Leapmotor's copied Tesla. These little golf ball buttons are straight from a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y, as is the gear lever. It's also the way that you activate the active cruise control. But watch this, I put it down. What's popped up on the screen? Press the brake and place the NFC card in the reading area, or unlock and lock again. Every time I've had to get in the car, I've had to get the card out of my pocket and place it here, where it then gets rid of that message and makes the car active. Now, I can't understand for the life of me why anybody would do that. It's not all bad, there's some really great design in here. There's no head-up display, but look, this is an entry-level car. A nice quality driver's screen and a really nice quality infotainment screen. The menus mainly make sense. There's the charms, you can access settings and so forth. There's a 360-degree camera. No automated parking here, who cares? The seats have heating and cooling, and you select which one you want there. You can also position the seats where you want them as well. There's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Oh my God, this is the 21st century. Now apparently the boss has acknowledged this is an oversight and they're going to fix it with an over-the-air update. Well, until then, that's a deal killer for me, and I would go no further. But let's first go to the cabin. There's a couple of cup holders. This is the phone charger, which you turn on and off with that little symbol. A good idea because you want it to be off if you have something that's not a phone resting on that bit. And a generous center console bin. Here's a closer look at that dimpled upholstery. But the most annoying thing is every time you get into this car, you have to go into the driver menus and set all these things, the overspeed warning, for example, and everything is set at high. It's set to beep as well as lane keep. There's warning sounds everywhere, including blind spot detection. And this is one pedal mode which only works in Eco, and the car always starts in Eco. Just before we go, I want to point out the vents which are hidden behind this bit of upholstery. There's a line of vents here and a line of vents there. There are various vent settings that allow you to set it where you want it to be, plus you can tell the air to avoid your face. This warning is the low tyre warning. If I want to see what warnings there are, I've got to go and press the warning button, where it'll bring up the fault is a tyre pressure low. The tyre pressure isn't low. I've checked it half a dozen times. There's nothing wrong with it. But every few minutes throughout this video, you will notice there's DAB and FM. You'll note there's no AM. And if I want favourites, they're the ones I've managed to program into favourite. We'll get going. I'm going to try and have an unedited bit so that I can show you how annoying the constant bongs are. It started already. That's the overspeed warning. The reason we turn overspeed warnings off most of the time is that the acquisition system, that's the low pressure. Now that's going to go off every few minutes, and if it doesn't drive you crazy, then I don't know what will. All right. The suspension, though allegedly very sophisticated, is very disconnected from the road. It's quite soft, and it seems to have a remarkable ability to not soak up bumps terribly well and also be remote. The steering has absolutely no feel, and I've adjusted it up so that it had a little bit of resistance at least, but unfortunately when you start it again next time, it starts in Eco mode, which is easy. It's horrific. Now if there was one button that you could say I want to program everything like this and program it to the steering wheel button, there wouldn't be a problem. But as it stands, there is. You can see the cabin looks quite nice at night. I've got the mood lighting set to industrial pink. I'm getting an overspeed warning because it says the speed limit is 20. However, it's just changed. The speed limit on the freeway is 70 in this particular section. It is honestly the most annoying system ever. So double tap, now the smart cruise control is on. I'm going to wind it up to 70. Okay, it's telling me to take a rest because I'm fatigued. How long have we been on the road? Minutes? I mean, that's just outrageous. The reason I'm not using the cruise control is that you've got to type everything in manually. The voice assistant is next to useless. Now, the thing that I found was that the lane keeping and lane centering doesn't really put me in the lane where I want it to be. And if it's not, I don't know if you can hear all the bongs, but this is just absolutely ridiculous. Every time the lane centering activates and deactivates, it gives you that bong. Now that's because it's putting me in a part of the lane I don't want to be in. It's taking me far too close to the edge. Look, 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 look. And that's a warning because I was too close to the edge. It took me there. I mean, for God's sake. Low pressure tyre, don't know what the other beep was. The worst part was some of the beeps don't actually tell you what they're for. The low pressure tyre, for example, I really didn't know what it was this week because there's no pop-up thing. There's just this very subtle little tiny few millimetre high tyre. I had to actually go into the system to find out what it was. So the ride is quite tight, and I'm drifting over again, right? I've gone outside the line. It's supposed to be keeping me inside the line, or at the very least stopping me from going outside into another lane, but it's not. It's not doing that at all. Now, I tried it on the open road at 110 earlier in the week, and I was constantly having to make corrections. The sport mode is quite frisky, but the friskiest this will get is just under 7 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. That's not exactly frisky. There's 160 kilowatts worth of power in the rear motor. There's not one in the front. But for 54,000, I can forgive it that. Remember the Brabus that we had recently, the smart Brabus? It had a similar problem with lots of warnings, but you could put them all of the settings. I'm constantly having to battle the steering to keep it in the lane where I want. Do you know what? I'm going to turn it off and take over. That system is just absolutely horrible. What I've been doing is disarming all of the warnings altogether. Right, the Brabus. I could gather all of those settings together under one button and then just go press, and it would silence the alarms that I wanted silenced, put it into normal mode because Brabus mode was just too crazy, and it was happy days. This has just been absolutely miserable. Right. I mean, mainly because of that. Right, it thinks I'm too close to the car in front and that I haven't seen it, but of course I have seen it and my foot was on the brake. The only time everything goes quiet is when you're indicating. It silences all the other alerts. I should just drive down the road with my indicator on. So to make this drivable, if one of the shortcuts could be universal mute for absolutely all alerts, and there was CarPlay, wireless, and they could fix that stupid thing with the key needing to be put here every time I use it, and the highway and safety system reprogrammed so that it would remember my defaults. So it would remember that I don't want maximum sensitivity on everything, because that's half the problem. Half the problem is that it's got maximum sensitivity, so it goes off far too soon. Perhaps it wouldn't be so bad. I tried it on low sensitivity and normal sensitivity, and while it was still annoying, the bongs didn't go off quite so often. As it stands, the Leapmotor C10 is an absolute hot mess, and the only car that I've driven that was as bad recently was the EVfail. I don't say this often, but as it is, I couldn't spend another moment in this car. That's all this week for the very disappointing Leapmotor. No matter how cheap this is, until those things are fixed, I just could not recommend this car. As always, hit like, leave a comment, and on the little round thing to subscribe.